Hello, hello. I'm going live. I think the last one was probably close to a month ago, my pre-Peru. Probably had the same sweatshirt on for 95% of these videos. But anyway, listen, I'm back at my retreat center that has been my home away from home that I'm looking for. But so the ravens are nutballs here right now. I think it's a spring thing and the adolescent ravens. But so you're going to hear a lot of raven energy behind me, as well as other birds and things, and maybe we'll have a hummingbird visitation if we're lucky. But yes, I am back from Peru, and holy smokes, what an adventure. You know, you never know when you go on these retreats and things like that, what it's actually going to happen, right? And so much to report that both from the actual retreat itself, but then ultimately for me, it's often the things that come along as part of it that are unexpected, that are actually where the real power is. So super powerful journey. So first, I've been back for about a week and a half. The travel was pretty rigorous, getting there and back, but it was all good and grateful. I mean, it's a miracle, right? A miracle that I can get in a plane and end up in Peru like a day later. Peru, what an amazing country. I mean, I saw a little piece of it, right? We were in the Sacred Valley, so flew into Lima, and then it was an hour and a half flight or so to Cusco, which is a pretty good sized city still, or town, or I don't know if it's a city or a town, but beautiful, like nestled amongst all these hills. Hills, and it's at altitude, so like 11,000 feet the city itself is. So, that's a whole thing, because when you fly from sea level up to 11,000 feet, your body, it's an adjustment, So I was taking supplements before I went to, there was one called chlorophyll complex, which was about helping my hemoglobin be able to bring in more oxygen. DTO's in the house. Hey, DTO, this is exciting that you're here watching. Hey. And then there's, when you get there, they have coca tea, and coca, which is interesting because coca is the leaf where cocaine comes from. So, but drinking this coca tea helps your body acclimate to the altitude. So anyway, got to Cusco, had a couple of days in Cusco before the retreat actually started, which was wonderful. And my overall impression, one of the big things I've been saying is the Peruvian people, there's an energy in Peru that's very different than here in the States. Like there's a complete, for me anyway, absence of like an edginess. It made me really realize that here in the U.S., especially I noticed this with driving, that there's like an intensity and edginess, the whole road rage thing, right? In Peru, when we were driving during the retreat, and a lot of the roads there are very windy mountain roads, right? And narrow, and there would be times where only one car can fit through. And if we encountered a car coming the other way, it was like this kind of unspoken ability to know how to navigate that, where one car would just stop and back up and the other one would go. And there was never once in all of that navigating of narrow roadways a crossword. There was one, we were in a town, we were on this bus, right? Because there's 24 of us on this retreat. And the street was narrow. And so there was cars coming this way, and there wasn't enough room for the bus to fit and the cars to fit. So we had to stop, and like people were coming out of their houses, and the guy that was our guide got off the bus, and they were all trying to figure out how to navigate that. If that had been happening here in the U.S., I'm willing to bet that there would have been a lot of swearing, a lot of yelling, a lot of anger, a lot of finger pointing. Not a crossword there. It was like people just figuring out, like, how do we make this work? It was remarkable. So that was one major thing about the Peruvian experience. Hey, James. And the other thing about the Peruvian people that I experienced was where we were in the Sacred Valley, the people that I encountered there, both the Quechuans, who are the indigenous folks from that area, and also people that are, other Peruvians, is there's a groundedness to them. Like the way I've been describing it is that they are ground. You know, like here we talk a lot about being grounded, right? It's like we're human bodies trying to figure out how to be grounded. There, it's like they are the earth. There's no separation. It's not like they're humans trying to be grounded. They are ground. So being in that energy for that time, it just really helped bring me into myself and into my body and into connection to the earth in a way that I had not really experienced before. It was really powerful and really beautiful. And so for me, the challenge is like creating that myself. That connection to the earth is so vital. You know, here in the States, at least in my life, it's like this idea that we have that we're separate from nature. Like, oh, I love nature. I love to go out in nature, right? And we forget that we are nature. Like, we forget that we are the natural world, you know? It's not something that we're separate from, that we have this connection to. It's like, so the more and more I can be connected to the earth and really tune into it and then the elements, right? Like, the more okay I am. So those were two of the big things about Peru, you know. And then we have this retreat. There was 24 of us on this retreat. One man, God love him, and 23 women. And what a beautiful group of souls that came together on this retreat. There was so much love, so much support, so much joy, so much power, so much, like, I was in a lot of stuff at times, you know, and just the support I received was incredible. So that was amazing. Jess is here. Hey, Jess. So this retreat, we went to all these various sacred sites, right? There were Incan and pre-Incan. And, you know, what I learned when I was there is that I always think about the Incan culture as if it lasted for a very long time, right? But the Incan I don't know if you want to call it the culture, but the Incan civilization really only lasted about 100 years. And then prior to that, the pre-Incan civilization lasted a lot longer, hundreds or thousands of years. So there was all these structures that were pre-Incan and Incan, and like this amazing stonework, right? Massive stones that fit together so perfectly that you couldn't fit a hair in there. You know, we tend to think of ourselves as this advanced civilization, right? But these older civilizations had the technologies to be able to do things like this that I don't think we could accomplish now. But what happened when the Spanish moved in the late 1400s and 1500s and colonized and decimated the peoples, they knocked down all of these sacred sites and structures as best they could. There's still like foundations and lower levels of things remaining. Took those stones, built other structures with them, not nearly as amazingly as the Incans and pre-Incans, and then put their churches on top, the Christian churches on top. And this is a common thing throughout the world, right, where this was done. Like patriarchal civilizations would, I mean, even a lot of our holidays now are, you know, like Christmas, Easter, all of those things that have become Christianized are actually what you might call pagan or earth-based ritual times, and that then got co-opted by Christianity. So it's this really ugly, to me, history of co-opting and colonization and decimation of cultures. And, you know, so that's what you get to see there a lot, right, was these beautiful temples and sacred spaces that were then desecrated by the Spanish, the Europeans, when they came in and just killed, knocked out these civilizations and put these churches on top, and, you know, tried to get rid of the local religions and things. So it's kind of this really painful thing to be witnessing and experience, right? And it's here in this country too. So that was hard, right? And also to feel the sacredness that's underlying it all, that didn't die out, that wasn't decimated, but yet it's still kind of covered over by all of this. So, you know, and then we went to these sacred sites and did these beautiful activations and had some really powerful healing experiences. And but one of the bigger, I may speak about that on another video. I don't want this to be too long, but But one of the bigger things for me, Lizzie's here and Sharon, hey, you guys. One of the big, huge things for me that was unexpected about this retreat was that here we are with 24 people, right? And what came up for me was this whole piece. I have a hard time with groups of people that I don't know. Some people might call it social anxiety. I'm not sure. But, it's like all these beautiful, loving people that, are amazing. And say sitting at the dinner table, there'd be a conversation going on over there, and I would be in the middle, not being included in either conversation. And I know all I needed to do was just like ask to be included. And I know I would have been welcome to any conversation at any time. But I had a lot of experiences of sitting there going like, oh, I'm not included there, I'm not included there. So sitting in this place, it really put me in the place of like having to drop into my own insecurities of things like, and it's all inner child stuff. It's all young stuff. It's all childhood stuff, wounding, right? Of like, oh, they don't like me. I don't belong here. They don't like me. And I would feel myself energetically really shrinking and going into all this really painful place, So that happened a lot for me when I was there, much to my own chagrin. And I was bummed that was happening, but yet ultimately what happened is massive healing of all of that. When I came back, I've been saying, I came, re-entry from these peak experiences is tough anyway, right? And I mean, the travel is rigorous. It was like 2 days of travel, so being exhausted. And then I didn't have a home to come back to. I realized on coming home, flying back from Peru, I was like, it was the first time I had ever traveled anywhere and not had a familiar home to come back to. My friend Swati invited me to stay at her house for a couple of nights after I got back, and that was so beautiful to have that invitation and that space to come to. But it wasn't my home. It wasn't my familiar place, right? So there's a certain nervous system challenge to that, right? Where I don't have a familiar surrounding to just settle into and recover. So for about a week after, and then I was in a hotel for 2 nights, and then I came back here. But it was a rough week emotionally. I was feeling really shaky and really insecure, and all my young stuff was up, So man, I was in it for a week, really in the fire of not sure if I was okay. Do people love me or not? Like all of this really, really vulnerable, tender stuff, And so, man, I was in it. I spent a lot of time in bed. I spent a lot of time crying. And I knew like that it was a process. It was a journey. It was a healing process of going into all of that to clear it out so that I could be in a place of self-love. And that's ultimately what happened. I came through that fire. I let myself, and this is the key, letting yourself go into it, not judging yourself for all of those feelings. Didn't like having those feelings, but it's just human, right? It's tender. It's painful stuff from when I was a kid that I was able to go into and move through. And I'm telling you guys, now, having gone through all of that, let myself go through that, I feel better than I ever have in my entire life. I feel I'm in a place of self-love like I never have been before. I feel more kind of grown up than I ever had. A lot of my healing stuff, I feel like I did some major healing work there in Peru, and then going through all of that really tender stuff when I got back, I feel better than I ever have. So here I am now, post Peru, and I can feel, I've been letting myself really settle into this place here at QuestHaven, as kind of like a refuge, and now I can feel this gentle nudge at my back of like, it's time to move on here. It's time to move into the next thing. And so, not sure exactly what's happening next, but I can feel some energy moving about, I'm in this place of like, do I find a place to settle or do I stay mobile? I'm not sure yet, but I'm feeling like even staying mobile, I'm feeling like I'm ready to re-engage with my business and start to be of service again, and be the healer and the teacher that I am. And so I feel all of that coming alive. And it's springtime. This is when this stuff comes alive. And so I feel things starting to move. I feel like I've been through, like the past 3 years has been intense, you guys. I mean, the pandemic for sure, But, you know, this healing process that I've been in, where I've finally been able to get in touch with the memories, like all these repressed memories that I had, I've finally been able to get the story of what happened to me when I was a kid, and it's fucking intense. And I feel like I've moved through the fire of all of that too, and I'm on the other side of it. So I feel like I'm cleared out in a way I've never been, and am ready to move into this next phase of my life. So I'm so grateful for the blessings in my life. And you know what? It's like, to me, the lesson is let yourself go into all the hard places. Like the real gifts are in going through the hardest places. You know, it's kind of cliche. You hear that all the time, but it's freaking true. So, you know, if there's any of those places you judge yourself about, like, man, I was judging myself up, down, and sideways when I was in Peru about how insecure I was feeling, and how, oh, I wish that person would pay attention to me. It was like this really young stuff, but going into it and coming to a place of self-love through it all is like gold. So here I am. That's the latest. I would love to know how you are feeling. Like, are you feeling all this spring energy of like new beginnings and stuff? Yeah, what's going on in your world? I'd love to hear in the comments. And I'm going to try to, you know, as part of my re-engaging with my business, for the past 3 years, I've been really so deeply embroiled in my own personal healing that I haven't really had it to give. But I'm feeling really passionate about getting back into doing the healing work with people. I'm going to start opening up doing virtual work, you know, and yeah, getting into teaching more about healing, the nature of healing. It's powerful, powerful stuff. So that's it for now. Big love to you all. Intense times that we're in, and there's no time like the times we're in now to do your own personal work and to heal what needs healing in you, and to come to more and more a place of self-love. And in order to get to self-love, you got to go through all the places that are blocking you from it, you know. So it's not easy, and it's worth it. So, all right, that's it for now. Big love, and let me know how you're doing in the comments. All right, love you. Bye.